hope I can live up to that introduction, Steve. I've promised Jane that I would only be 45 minutes, and then there'd be some minutes of question and answer period afterwards. And I'm wearing a hat because I love wearing a hat. Actually, I have nothing to hide under there, but this is my modus operandi as I walk around town. And one of my messages is that I want people to wear hats, you know. So you'll have to endure with that, you know, that good, she has a hat on too. But I like the brim. So I do want to remind you that every opinion expressed here is my own. It has nothing to do with the institution of the La Grua Foundation. Diejos consoy a La Grua, and bless all of you also. So I've managed to fortunately get together a PowerPoint presentation, which I never had done one in my whole life. I've been retired that long. And so this is the first time for that. And I think it's all together, and at least I have something to fall back on, which is this visual stuff. So why don't I start? This is before the beginning, but we will, I guess what I have to do here is tap these things to advance them. And of course, we start off in our galaxy. This kind of looks like our own Milky Way galaxy, where we have hundreds of billions of stars, but we have a sister galaxy not very far away either, and that's the Andromeda galaxy. Kind of like us, maybe twice as big. Now, everybody's talking about the universe expanding wildly and space expanding. Well, lo and behold, the Andromeda galaxy is racing towards us on a collision course. It will meet in only about 4 billion years, so, you know, just hold your hat on that. We don't have to worry about the apocalypse for that long. But I don't intend to spend this much time on every slide. I hear that kids only have a 5-second attention span, and I will try to do that tonight with every slide 5 seconds, being able to cover a whole bunch. Oh, that's what it would look like if we had a time view of the evening sky. That's the Milky Way. That's a photographic time view. Imagine how beautiful it would be if we could see, you know, the darkness and the illumination of the stars. Here is a this happens to be one of the Geminid meteors. And why I threw this up front is because at this moment we're being pelted by the Perseids. The peak of them was a couple days ago. They will last for some time. You can see them best after midnight, and you would look in the direction of the Andromeda galaxy, actually, or the Andromeda constellation. Now, where would that be for you? I would tell you, okay, this way is north, that way is south. So if you know where north and south is at your home, okay, about, what was that? The sun sets, oh, where am I here? Oh, you're right, the sun sets over there. The sun sets over there, so that would be west, and that would be south. So if you know where you are at home, I don't know where I'm here, just look in the south, east a little bit, above the horizon, and that's after 12 midnight, you may see these shooting stars coming across you, and hopefully not one coming directly at you. But that would be the Perseids. There is a second order of Perseid showers that they discovered for the beginning of September, so all's not lost if you don't see them this time. And in the beginning of September, it will be at a more convenient time, like before midnight. Still coming out of the Andromeda constellation. Oh, that's me, in case you didn't know that. Just to show you that it's the same guy with the hat walking around town. And I'm only going to flash this for a second, but that's my partner in crime, Steve, who just talked. And I want to get back. I want to get back at him because he had a choice of getting Bob Ballard for this talk about the climate, or Jim Carlton from the Munson Institute, but no, he chose Stan Gaby. You know, thanks, Steve. I'm going to get back at you somehow. And I want you to know that Steve, just in the last year, took a wonderful sojourn to the Holy Land. And next month, he is going to conquer all of Hadrian's Wall. And that's September. Do not let him get away with not telling you about these things, you guys. So there, Steve, I got back at you for this. There's a little, because I haven't presented any kind of lecture for 7 years or so since I've been retired. and I had a little anxiety about today, but we're all set. We've started. This is a gathering to welcome home the World War I vets in 1919 in Danbury, Connecticut. Now, what I like about this is that this is what they wore. And my grandfather is right there. There he is. See that? Right there. So now that you know that, I'm so interested in you wearing hats. Back to the old days. It stopped at the time of John F. Kennedy. He's the only one that stopped wearing hats, and so no one wears hats anymore. But look, we need it for sun protection and for just being that I want to be like Oprah Winfrey, and I want to give you old cars, but no cars, hats instead. So here are the hats. You all get hats. Unfortunately, I only paid 10 people. I bribed them to come, so I didn't know this many people would show up. And I don't know how to distribute them, but please, at the end, please run up and grab a hat. They're for you for free, and they're imported, and they are, let me see what they are. I can't read it. But whatever, there's some kinds of hats, and that's just to encourage you to wear them. I had 2 slides of that so that I would not forget to do it, and I promise you that you will not get Mad Hatter's disease. Okay, that's from, remember the mercury in making hats? Danbury had a hat factory, and the folks there, because they still used mercury, got what was called the Danbury Shakes. You won't get the Danbury Shakes, but I got these left over from the hat factory in Danbury. It'll be okay. It'll help. Here's what tonight's supposed to be all about. Right now, the end of the world, the Mayan secrets revealed. And I actually want to get to that. So can I at least read this to you? So you can read it yourself, I'm sure, but I don't know why I'm going to read it to you, because you'll see that I'm not a very good reader. But predicting the end of the world is both a sure bet and a fool's errand. Eventually, the total destruction of civilization, the human race, and indeed the world is a near certainty. The tricky part about predicting the apocalypse is the timing, but that hasn't stopped people from forecasting impending doom throughout human history. Holy men, ancient astronomers, and even modern computer scientists have all occasionally read the leaves in their occupational cups of tea and concluded that the end is nigh. And without exception, they have all been wrong. But maybe this year is going to be different. On December 21st, 2012, a few months away, the Mayan calendar will reach an end. Now, instead of diving into the apocalypse, I decided to postpone that a bit, because all I envisioned was a mass exodus from here of all of you weeping and crying, and I didn't want to get there right away, so I decided, this is for you, it's not for me or about what I know. I wanted to get to our hometown, and basically that's dealing with sea level. Well, there's been a lot to do about this end of the world with End of Days and all of these movies. Signals from the void. Scientists are trying to get the first direct look at the black hole in the center of the galaxy. Well, there is one. But there are also hidden worlds out there, as we have just discovered with the revelation of the Higgs boson, whatever that is. I don't know why the papers don't say, because in my physics training, I learned that whenever there was a particle discovered, there was also an equivalent antiparticle, because there is symmetry in the universe, so they haven't said anything about the anti-Higgs boson yet. But wait, I don't think they wanted to confuse you about that. So there's a hidden world. I don't know if we're going to address it tonight at all. Woody Allen wants to know how far it is from Midtown Manhattan and what time it stays open till, but we may get to that at the end. I have a very ambitious program tonight, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get through only about half of it, because my promise was 45 minutes. Yeah, we took off and went to the moon. Fantastic. That was in 1969. And I remember when I went through engineering school, well, I lost half of it. What do you think this is? What's that thing called? It's a slide rule. I went through engineering school with this thing. Yeah, and they went to the moon in 1969 with this. And how accurate is it? Let me see, 2 times 2, looks like almost 4. You know, so, and when I was in college, having that, I, of course, was a little embarrassed, so it was the engineering student that got the bigger and better one, you know, the Kuffelanessa. It was made out of magnesium, you know, like, whatever. We had these things hanging for, bigger was better. They walked around the car. Yeah, it was incredible. But why I mentioned that, again, is because we made it to the moon. And can I give you a little hint at a movie that I'd like you to see? Okay, you can pick it. I don't know where you can find it, but it's called The Dish. The Dish. And it's about the only dish that received the signals from the first moon landing. It was the Parkes Observatory down in Perth, Australia. There's 3 guys there, 1 American advisor. No other observatory throughout the whole world picked up the signals from the first moon landing. And they were the only one. It was, isn't that incredible? It's fantastic. Parkes has been relishing in a lot of funding that came from the United States for a long time now. We were very happy for that. Oh, there's a kid close to my heart. It's my grandson. And I mention him because he's about 14 there, but he was the one that showed me, that opened a new world for me with a certain telephone just about 3 years ago, and I'll come back to that in a second. I don't intend to show all of my family. Maybe if you stuck around till 8 o'clock tonight, you could see that. I'm a romantic. I look at the skies and I look at signs from heaven, and there's a master power up there, a spirit, and when I see it, I snap it. So hopefully this spirit will even bless us in this presentation. There is probably the last polar bear on Earth, you know. And of course, to take a picture of them clinging to this little ice cube. It was a couple years ago that a report came out that 2 polar bears drowned in the Arctic because there wasn't enough ice. In other words, indicating that all of the ice was melting. So that conjured up our sympathies, and we start talking about global warming. It's a nasty term. Although there is melting ice. This is a top picture of some ice field up in, I believe it says Alaska, and then that ice field is gone today. The ice is disappearing. There's a picture, it's like hard to view, but that's a picture of Greenland. And Greenland, okay, there's a, let me see, here's North America, here's where we are, and there's Greenland. Now, Greenland has a lot of ice. If it were to melt totally, the sea level would rise 30 feet. 30 feet. Antarctica, if Antarctica would melt, which has 90% of the world's ice, the sea level would rise 250 feet, 1/4 the height of the Empire State Building. Well, we don't want Antarctica to melt. We don't want sea level to rise at all. But this is an interesting story about Greenland because there was an article in a local journal recently that showed, blink, it's gone. Greenland's surface ice melted 2 weeks ago. Greenland has a thickness of 2 miles of ice. How could that happen? And then they show a picture of Greenland before 2 weeks ago with ice, and now no ice cover at all. That's misleading, folks. It still has 2 miles of ice. That's not correct reporting. I don't know what their purpose is, but they all have motivations. Bring it home. Here's that house that's at the end of Omega Street, right over here. You saw that, right? And this time right now is the 1-year anniversary for Irene. Good thing it's not here. Boy, that shortened your boating season last year, didn't it? And when Irene came, it made a little impact. It splashed that house. I can't take credit for this picture. As a matter of fact, there's a lot I cannot take credit for. Just to let you know that we can be blitzed by these hurricanes, as if you don't know that. Well, Stonington Borough is very nice. You look at the end of the street, and you can see there's water. So we're very close to sea level as it is. There's a house that may have rocked down because of, it was built on landfill. Wet landfill, if it shakes a little bit, turns liquid. That's called liquefaction. And a house can sink or tilt over. And then there's rocking the other way, and there it goes again. Boy, that thing may float out to sea. One of the earthquakes out in San Francisco, the Marina District, if they're built on unconsolidated land, well, they're going to tip over. Big buildings do all the time. That just happens to be one that, only fell over against the other house. That's when you shake the land and it becomes liquefied. Well, that's interesting, right here in town. I walk to the end of that street and I see Phragmites grass. And I said, wait, that's ocean. And there's houses there. I'm sorry if you're here in the audience, if you own the houses. This is from in town. If you look at that closely, the roadway is only 2 feet, 2.5 feet above sea level. I don't know, do you have the evacuation routes all planned here? I don't know. In case the sea level rises. Why I say that was because the hurricane of '38, just the sea level, never mind the storm surge or the waves, the tidal waves, just the sea level was 12 foot above normal. 12. That's up to the top up there. How does it get that high in a hurricane? Because it's a low pressure area and it sucks up the ocean. Low pressure. That's how during storms, sea level gets higher naturally. This is a picture from, I don't know, it could be the jetty right out here, right out there. And I love looking at this guy. There's panoramic views from Stonington Point. I love living here, it's great. And then back in the old days, when we had fishing boats dock at the local marina, right? You recognize that? Skippers. How would I have caught that picture? Do you know? Merrill Street. And during a hurricane, here's where the yachts come to breed. Unless you get them out of the water in time. Now we have our own X-Files right here, our own. It's right there, getting ready for hurricanes or anything unusual. There's our town, lovely town with the long. Here's our. Okay, we'll look at this thing here. This is our pier. What do you call it? A breakwater or a jetty? Is that what it's called? And there's a tranquil view of the same area. This is from the Stonington Historical Society Bulletin, and it dates to about 1840, which puts the building of the lighthouse about 1840, and also there was a pier of some sort there, it looks like by 1840. I don't have the details on it, but there, I don't know if that whole pier was there by 1840. It's impressive. But look how high it is above sea level. I mean, it is big. This is our pier right out there. That's what it looks like now. So right away we can tell that sea level somehow is rising, isn't it? This isn't just a high tide. Sea level is rising. What I can mention here is that you folks have the stories that I need, and I usually carry with me for the longest time. There was one of my former students, I'll tell you the name too. I saw him a couple years ago. I hope he's still around. His name's Dana Dart from Mason's Island. Dana Dart, old timer for me. He told me that when he was young, he tied his little dinghy up on a rock. There was a pin in the rock when he was a teenager, 18, 19 years old. And then about 50 years later, he had to move that pin up another 2 feet because he had witnessed, serendipitously, sea level rise 2 feet in just a half a century. That means around here, sea level is rising 4 feet per century. It's alarming, it's fast. That's been corroborated by the recent sea level rise scientists in the area that the Northeast is particularly picked out for having the highest sea level rise out of almost anywhere in the world, just the Northeast. I mean, if you can live it, you say, well, someone's got to be right. That's what that looked like. Look at that. That's that pier when it was first built, before it was destroyed. had to be built by 1840 or so. So that means it got the ravages of a couple hurricanes, including 38. And a couple of these storms that just went by last year picked up some of the rocks and threw them up on that walkway. Did you see that? It's kind of broken down today. And there's a picture of a couple of the friends standing out there. Look, that's not even a storm surge or anything, but the water, it's not even waves. The water is washing over that pier. Well, you won't know that. I'm not telling. It's just that you get it in evidence here. Oh, I love taking pictures of Stonington. Some of you know where we are here. Let me see. There's, where are we here? Yeah, there's Stonington Point. And see these two things out there? That's the breakwater. Two breakwaters. The breakwaters that we see right out there. Those breakwaters were placed there. The rocks came from the U.S. Naval Reservation in 1912. That's where they came from. They blasted away rocks from the quarry in 1912, and they brought them over there. The state wraps utility for the storm's response. Well, the utilities, remember Irene? We had almost over 100,000 people without power for 3 weeks or more. When you're without power, that ruins your day. You know, there's like no air conditioning, there's no water, there's no flushing toilets. You know, it kind of wrecks things for you. And the state said, I remember them, not the state, but the utilities, when interviewed about that, their poor response said, well, the weatherman was wrong. You know, what? They don't have their own weatherman? And they didn't chop down the trees or bring relief in time. And now they're asking for an increase in rates and also money from you guys, from us, to repair all the damage that has been done. So the state is finally saying, no, wait a second. Make your shareholders suffer that expense. I agree with that, not us. I mean, the rate's expensive enough as it is. This is a storm from 2 months ago. 2 or 3 months ago, I was standing on the yacht club deck over there, and I took a picture north, and this is what we got. But the picture before that is this one. I mean, it was scary because all of the tables on the top of the deck of the yacht club were blowing this way, going over the top. The people came running in and tried to save it. And what I noticed when I developed this picture from my little SD card about 2 weeks later, I looked at it closer and I said, what is that? I don't know, but then I enlarged the picture. I believe that was a tornado in Stonington or a water spout. Did anyone else get that picture, or were you sucked up into the heavens by it? You know, so that had to be north of me. I was amazed that that came about, and I'm very happy to show you this picture too, because I've been the only one that has it. Then I looked back as that thing, the tornado, passed, and I tried to find it to see if it dissipated. I can't tell, but I think that's it right there. I can't tell. Not a good enough perspective. But what I did notice, I am a romantic. If you look close, you can see the head of an angel and her arms, her wings. Can you see that like me? No. Well, I tried to see the positiveness. The angel was overlooking the burrow. Okay, yes, thank you. That's what I need. And because I'm so much of a romantic, there's another picture I took at a sunset about, I don't know if it was a half a year ago, but notice this strange feature from the sun. Those are called sun pillars, and it looks like a crucifix blessing the fleet coming in. I've never seen a picture like that before, but it looks like it. I have that. And of course, here's the rainbow that I took from there. I also noticed that somebody else had exactly the same, almost exactly the same picture, and they put it on the front page of the New London Day. Right, I think it was there. But this is mine. So a rainbow kisses the burrow. Now here's a place that I would like to talk about when we look at sea level rise and vulnerable locations along the shore. This is Griswold Point down in Old Lyme, Old Lyme. And there is at least 700-acre Great Island in the middle of the Connecticut River. It is the flyway for birds, migratory birds. Griswold Point, by the way, had been famous for all of the little terns that were being protected. But what happened with Griswold Point in the 90s was, I got this picture off of my telephone, was that it was punched through right there. It was punched through just from normal winter storms. So I said to myself, hey, these barrier beaches, these sand spits, that's a mile-long Griswold Point, you know, they usually repair themselves. Griswold Point is stewarded by the Nature Conservancy. So you figure in case there was damage to it, somebody from there would come out and help repair it. But no. Well, there's the Connecticut River coming down that way. And I took another photo off of my telephone, a satellite view, and it's gone. All of Griswold Point's gone now. I can't believe it. I used to bring classes out there all the time for a lot of reasons. One, yeah, there it was, a picture of what Griswold Point used to look like out to the end, but now that's all gone. When it was first being washed away, you could still slog through about 2 feet of water. My students hated me when they did that. And here's an aerial view of Old Saybrook and the jetties that go out for the mariners. That's Lynn Point Lighthouse, and here's Breakwater Light. Breakwater Light is famous for being the one on the license plate? Yeah, that's the one. But if we look back at Great Island, you can see Great Island does not have Griswold Point to protect it. So now that 700-acre salt marsh is vulnerable to the waves of the sea. Lots of ospreys on Great Island we'd like to protect. Here's the Connecticut River during one of its flood stages where it's bringing down all kinds of silt from the north. And if you were to go out there with the boat, you could tell the difference between the fresh water coming down the Connecticut River and the salt water on the side. Really, fresh water, salt water. If you were, I think some people have been canoeing around there and got caught up in the outgoing flood tide and never been seen from again. Because it is voracious. You're going out when you're going out. Mentioning this Connecticut River, let me pause on that for a second. You know, the Connecticut River, the original Algonquin name for the Connecticut River is Kinehitut. And so let me see. Our state is called Connecticut, Kinehitut. You think there's a connection? I do too. That's where we get our name. Kinehitut means, the Algonquin term means long tidal river. Long tidal river. And when there's a tide out here in Old Lyme, a 4-foot high tide, it will manifest itself about 5 hours later up in Hartford as a 2-foot high tide. So it's tidal. Hartford's at sea level. And the Connecticut River is tidal all the way up to Enfield. It is 410 miles long. It starts in Canada. It's a wonderful river. It's beautiful that it's so pristine here at the end, you know, compared to the Thames River. We're lucky to have this. Can I mention the Hudson River now while we're doing that? The Hudson River also had a name. I can't think of it right now, but the Indian name for the Hudson River sounds like Manhattan Gut. Manhattan Gut, sounds like it. It means the river that flows 2 ways. It goes 2 ways, the Hudson River. So at least now you know where the origin of, I think, Manhattan comes from. Maybe wrong. Sounds like it should be Dutch. There's the Connecticut River again, spilling its guts out into the sea. I thought we saw a polar bear down at Griswold Point. And of course, one of my students ran up to try to defend the group, and I don't know if it turned out to be a polar bear, but it didn't move very much. Oh, that's what it was. All right. Well, okay, they're the bones of the Black Prince. on the sandbars of Griswold Point. This was built as a privateer for the 1812 war. I called Glenn Gordner, Professor Gordner, and asked him if he knew any more about this. I only did it recently, even though I've had these pictures for quite some time. And he told me that there were about a dozen of these privateer boats, 100-foot long, built in Essex. The British came and burned at least 10 of them. 2 of them they brought downstream with them. 1 got caught on the sandbar. It may be this one. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, the Black Prince, but it's, I think someone maybe from the Essex Historical Society may be better approached by that. But we were looking at that, no one was saving it. There it was for us to see, the bones were sticking out, it was 100-foot long. And I tried to see that as much as possible. I even brought my friend Barbara Sherman out there one time. She was such a soldier. She, arthritis and everything, made it all the way out and back. She was very nice. So that is disappeared now. There's my students going out to see it. I'm not very happy. There was a boulder out there about 100 feet. It's still there. The boulder is still there, 100 feet out in the water. That was in the middle of a farm field 100 years ago. All of that land has disappeared, as well as Griswold Point. If you were the property owner and your farmland had disappeared by 20 acres, do you now have to still pay taxes on that lapsed land? Or can you bulldoze it, reclaim it? They won't let you do that, right? So you should be able to get tax reduction because your land is disappearing. That's a point. More important, look at that boat that has disappeared, the Black Prince, maybe that's what it's called. All of the precious archaeological sites along the shore are disappearing because of the rising sea level and the erosion of the shore. I think it was John Pfeiffer who told me, who mentioned it was the Black Prince way back then. How long ago was that? Well, oh, there's number 2 son, right there. So I can tell at his age, let me see, at his age, what he is now, that must have been about 20 years ago. So about the 90s or so, Griswold Point was punched through, the Black Prince was disappearing underneath the waves. I remember grabbing a little piece of wood sample from it, wondering what I was going to do with it. It got lost. I don't know, I think they should have saved something. During that War of 1812, it would have behooved the warring parties to have salvaged these boats, these privateer boats that were burned down to the waterline. That's precious construction still, from the waterline down to the bottom of the hull. Don't you think so? Instead of building a boat all over again, I don't know. Swallowed by the sea. Oh, maybe this is a topic that I don't want to bring up because it's so controversial. Directly across from Old Lyme, Connecticut is the Plum Island. The Plum Island animal disease. A couple of little pamphlets I wrote. I remember I had something in here about Plum Island. And so I questioned why this Lyme tick flourished so quickly when it was the closest point between New York and Plum Island. The mission of Plum Island is to provide protection for the U.S. livestock population. Animals which are kept in quarantine until they are needed include sheep, swine, cattle, guinea pigs, mice, etc. These are the many dangerous viral diseases that have no available vaccines and are the forms that the laboratory is most interested in testing. Well, who knows? It's a little tick hopped onto a bird. The bird was blown 10.5 miles to the north, start flourishing in Lyme. All of the population of this Lyme disease starts from around. I'm not sensitive enough. I brought folks out to, older folks even, out to a walk out to the Griswold Point, and I mentioned Lyme disease, and a lady in that group got so upset because she lived in Lyme. And I realized what a mistake I made and how, what if something started here in the borough? They would call it the borough disease. You wouldn't like... Okay, some of the effects of Irene last year. There's a house in Rhode Island that was moved back 60 feet because it was being washed into the sea. They put structures there to try to protect it. They call them burritos here, but that's not correct, because the ones that are protecting Montauk Point out on Long Island are called gabions. Sounds like I made it. But they're big steel cages filled with rocks that are not going to wash away. We can't fight the sea. It's an adversary that'll beat us every time. And so what happened, once they moved this house back 60 feet, all of a sudden the waves were there, and they had to keep moving it back. Block Island, all of this, see, there's Montauk Point. At the end of Montauk Point are these structures. It's ready to fall into the sea. I just wanted to show you that because it was all of these formations are from the Ice Age. The ice came down, pushed up a pile of dirt and sand, created all of Long Island, all of Cape Cod, all of this. Block Island, lighthouse. You know already that it was moved back 300 feet. They'll probably have to move it back again. It's the story of all the lighthouses. Yeah, I think I got a picture of it then moved back. Hey, am I going in the right direction? There's my group from the Customs House. New London Maritime Society. There's Ben, and I think Lucille Showalter or someplace. I got to mention her name. You know, she was the Customs House, and I took them on a bus ride. I organized it all around Fisher's Island. We got out to the end. It was a jolly old time. You didn't have to hike or anything like that. You just get everyone in the bus, and you go to the Ferguson Museum, and all the way out to the end. You don't interfere with any golfers or anything. You can take a close look at the Spanish-American War fortifications, and if you wanted to, you can climb up into the turrets. It was exciting. So I'm glad to see Ben happy. I forget who this person is, but that's Race Rock Lighthouse right in the back. Just thought I'd mention that to you because it's available to you. How? Just getting on the ferry. The Fisher's Island Ferry, and you can walk over there. I put this little booklet together so people could do that. It's called the Orient Point Passage. I wanted people to go to Orient Point and not rent a boat or anything like that. They can pick this up in hand, and you can look at all the lighthouses on the way and identify everything that's there, even look at some of the sea creatures. And with this in hand, that's what I would have wanted to have if I went to any other sea coast. I would have wanted a guide like that. So I'm giving these two books to the local library. Another one I did, which is not quite in publishable form, but it's called The Thames River in the Ice Age. And I didn't ask the library yet, but I'd like to give it to them. And this other one is called Day Trips Through Connecticut. And I did that back in 1979. And it was basically to walk, to take little trips in Connecticut and find fossils, find gems, gold, find some places like Lantern Hill, learn about the Ice Age. But those are no longer in print, and you'd have to pick them up at the library. Let me get moving here. This is Napatri Point. Remember the hurricane of '38 blew away all the houses there? This is Sandy Point. Sandy Point was connected there, but the hurricane of '38 blew it away. There's Stonington, and there were those breakwaters. So this is an aerial view. What I like about the aerial view, though, is that just looking at it, it seems like it's so tenuous, so flimsy. Edgar Cayce said, the East Coast is going to go down in a wink of an eye. It scares me, but it looks like it can happen there. And particularly if the Northeast coast is the one that's sinking most. Is it sinking or is sea level rising? I don't know if I can get to that today, but there's the waves out at Watch Hill Lighthouse. A little more peaceful time. That's another view of Sandy Point right there, and Napatri Point and Stonington. I like these areas. Oh, I'm glad I got to this anyway. This is Watch Hill. You know where you are in Watch Hill, the parking lot there in Watch Hill. Well, that's a nice cold day. And then 2 days later come back, and that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's kind of wet. It's hard to shop when the water is that high, because then my car at the time, you know, you open the door and water comes in the car. So I hope they had it off limits When that you can see sea level rising, and they're experiencing it quick at Watch Hill. This was from Hurricane of 38. Misquamicut was wiped out. It shows some of the ferocity of the waves off of Misquamicut. Here's a lady she's trying to hold back the sea. I don't know if she's going to be able to do that. Here's a picture of Connecticut. And why I brought this picture here, and there's another picture, good, see that? The big map on the side there, is that this whole central part of Connecticut is dropped down to sea level. We're broken up into three portions. The dropped portion, and here and there. And if sea level would rise, not much, because remember, Hartford is at sea level, all that would fill in with water. Then, if you wanted to get from here to Hartford, you'd have to take some big bridge, you know, like the, what's that bridge down in Cape Hatteras? Is it Cape Hatteras, that big long bridge that goes? Maybe, it's one of those bridges. And this one looks like it's the Gold Star Bridge. But we'd have tremendous bridge systems. There's that same polar bear, he's still around, we're lucky for that. There's the Arctic, and that's what Nappertree Point looked like with 50 stately homes. Now, why are they going to build right on the sea level like that? I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about to begin with. And then along comes the hurricane, and that's what it looks like. It is now Nappertree Point. That's trying to race away from it, I guess. Quick. Here today, gone tomorrow. That's the flooding in Providence from that 38 hurricane. And the question here is, why do local, state, and federal governments allow people to rebuild damaged homes in extremely hazardous areas? Because once their home gets wiped out, they were given permission to build that home by the town and the government. And they say, come on, you either got to let me rebuild or you got to build my roadway out to my house once that gets wiped out. That's the conflict with that. Who pays for that? Of course, we shouldn't allow it. 2012 says the record for the Northeast hottest year. And it's so hot, as a matter of fact, that Long Island Sound is so hot they had to shut down Millstone 2. It's too hot, we got to turn it off and charge them more for electricity. Millstone 3, the water is cold enough apparently because they get the water from deep down. Well, what do you think we should do about getting the water from Millstone 2 then? Put the pipe deeper down, I think, yeah. How could they have that when even in Florida we have nuclear power plants where the water's extremely warm? Every now and then they get clogged up and shut down by floating platoons of jellyfish. Millstone 2 got shut down by seaweed and mussels. Cling, shut down. Who's watching the store? And that's a hurricane. I'm going to go through this quickly here. I got this off my telephone. The hurricanes, there's Galveston, the worst hurricane that ever hit this country. 6,000 people died in 1900. We didn't know about hurricanes at the time. There's the path of some other hurricanes. There's a picture I'm confused about. I don't know where I got the record from, but there's something in here about 1815. You know, the other hurricane we had before 1938 was 1815. That was a big one. Do you have any information about it? My friend Jack Fix got me some from the Stonington Historical Society, but no one else seems to have any more information about that, which they could share with the folks at the lighthouse since they talk about the Hurricane of 38. Like what happened here? There, and that was on, what point is that right there? Point Judith. Point Judith, the lighthouse structure that was there was blown away, and they rebuilt some other lighthouse. I don't know. I thought that was a photograph, but they didn't have photographs back in 1815, you know, they didn't have them until 1840 or so I'm not sure about the picture. Well, we are concerned about blackouts, and if you want to escape from town, that's what your escape's going to look like. Okay, we had to get to Antarctica. And what I want to show you about Antarctica is that it changes its size. The water freezes off Antarctica. All that green area around Antarctica, that's how big it gets at the end of their wintertime. And then that shelf ice melts back to the white area. So when people are talking about Antarctica getting bigger, smaller, melting, you're talking about when? Seasonally? So we cannot tell the size of Antarctica at all, because aerially, and it's difficult to know vertically, so we don't know if Antarctica is melting or not. There's Palmer Station, and there's Antarctica again, and Palmer Station should be right about there. Oh, and I asked, there was a lecture given, I think, at the Marine Science Institute, a scientist who was working in Antarctica for 20 years. I asked him, what have you recognized happened to the sea level in the 20 years that you were there? He was shocked by that question, and the answer was, he didn't recognize any difference. So where shall we go to determine what is truly happening with sea level? Everybody tells you, oh, sea level's rising, sea level's rising. What I want you to ask those people is say, where is sea level rising? Here it's rising. It's because we're sinking. That's why. Our land mass is sinking. Out in California and Oregon, sea level is dropping because the land mass is rising. So you have to go to some kind of stable platform to figure out absolutely what's happening with sea level. There is one. There is one, and if I don't get to it, I'll tell you what it is now, so at least you have some, concrete information. The one that is a stable platform is Bermuda, the island of Bermuda. It is a volcano that has been that way for thousands of years. They've been looking at sea level variations on the surface of Bermuda for 100 years. You know their answer? The same. The same. So at least you heard that from me. Some other places, again, sea level's rising here because we're sinking. I'm going to try to race through this. Boy, I'm missing a lot. Oh, they're the last few penguins in the world. And there is, oh, I got to tell you about that. Hey, I wanted to show you, I got a picture here, February 4th, 1904. The Thames River was frozen all the way out to Fisher's Island. People were out, horses on the Thames River. Those are cool. February 4th, 1904. But the picture of this, I don't know. What I should go to is straight to the apocalypse, I guess. I may not get to that. One of Shackleton's officers on his trip, they speared a big orca, and the orca was 30 foot long. They cut him open, and they found inside the orca, they found 20 penguins and 12 dolphins. And they get to be 30 feet long. So here, I don't have sympathy for this orca in search of these tiny little penguins. Don't mean for you to hate orcas or anything. Oh, there are some boulders that were dropped off by the Ice Age. Oh, this is Stonington, back in the industrial days. No, it's not really, but look at all of the smoke. That's the oil spill down in the Gulf of Mexico, and what do we contribute to this for global warming? Minuscule, nothing. Look at these, there's Fisher's Island. When I was out there, they were burning the grass out there, plain burning. Australia, every single year, has 15,000 brush fires. I mean, you're talking about carbon dioxide entering the atmosphere, and then what we can contribute, we shouldn't even talk about what we can contribute. I know big business is mad about people who talk about global warming because they think it's an anthropogenic source, us. And therefore, that's going to make all the big industry, put scrubbers on their stacks and use better fuel and all that. But we're not contributing anything, you guys, compared to this stuff that's going on here. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. But that was the Dow fire. Remember the fire? All of Dow burned, all those polycyclic styrofoam things. It was such a hot fire, it blasted into the air, went south, and it came down at Montauk Point. The people at Montauk were choking on dioxins. They interviewed someone at Dow Chemical, and they said, well, what is it? Oh, it was just carbon dioxide. Oh, how about dioxin? And then, of course, just a quick side to that is they try to find the culprit to that. They blame my stepson, little 10-year-old Ben, towhead, who not even out of school, something like that. They corralled him with the state police and everything. What if we can tell you that we've got videos of you walking down the train tracks lighten the fire. Those chemical things are right next to the train. Trains are always giving off sparks, the dry leaves. They didn't get them. I wish they got them. Chemical spills, internet chills. We're not going to know where any of these dangerous places are anymore because now we're worried about terrorists. If a terrorist knew that Dow Chemical was going to go up that quick, you think they would have done that before my stepson? No, he didn't do it. And then that's just a picture. I better stop here. That's just a picture of Mount Pinatubo erupting, throwing dust into the atmosphere, chilling the earth, and the dust in the sky produces fantastic sunsets. And I put this for people that are sleeping this way. And basically it says that their Heartland company says that the people who believe in man-made global warming are mostly the radical fringe of society. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about global warming. I'll be like Jim Carlton. I heard him talk at the a yacht club the other day, over there, and he said he believes in climate change. Okay, I believe in climate change too. I'm not going to say anything about global warming. I don't want people to come after me carrying violin cases. And then, just this last picture I want to show you is in the East Coast. That's another example of how the East Coast is a coastline of subduction. The sea comes in and it finds all these little rivulets, inlets, estuaries, and so on. The West Coast is not like this. So the whole East Coast is sinking. The reason why is because the Mid-Atlantic ridge is pushing the continents apart, and where it's pushing from the southeast, where it's pushing from the east, the Atlantic Ocean floor is diving down, and it's diving down and it's pulling some of the East Coast with it. That's why we're sinking. Why is it so resistant? It's resistant because out in Yellowstone, there's a big obstacle out in Yellowstone, and it's stopping the whole North America from moving west. Let's see, one more slide can tie this up. Yeah, we're going to have a watery world. We're going to have to be living in something like that, or that. We'll live simply, it says. Steve Fagan from today says that. And, oh, that's prophetic. Yeah, buy those condos in New London, and that's what it will look like. Or we'll have these islands. We'll live on islands. And finally, this guy from, this guy from David Seidman says, what to do. In a divorce, let her have the house, keep the boat. It says, join a yacht club or make friends with people in a yacht club. And that's from Boating USA. Whatever. And all I wanted to tell you about these carbon dioxide graphs is that's such a lie, that one, because if you put the carbon dioxide from 0 to 360 parts per thousand over that many years, it's going to be flat. It's not going to be up to scare everybody. And plus, where they take those carbon dioxide levels from is on the largest volcano in the whole world, Mauna Loa, the active volcano. Oh, that's the Geological Observatory on Hawaii. That's where they're taking the carbon dioxide levels from. Did you know back in December 1973, the front cover of Time magazine was that they were thinking we were going into an ice age? How quickly we go from an ice age to global warming? So we vacillate back and forth, and I think, that was going to be Bermuda, and I think I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. After all this, we all need a drink. So there's some wine over there.
And you better get these hats.
Please join us in. Thank you very much.
Please. Get the hats, you guys.